I realized that at age 62, I have lived more of my life than I have ahead of me. So I'm very intentional about how I spend my time.
Yeah. Well, that is why my podcast is called Life is Now, Do It While You Can.
Yeah.
Because it is so important that we take advantage of this time and we make the most of it. I mean, I had my own wake up call because I was diagnosed with cancer, and that's what woke me up. But, you did it when you turned 50 after you became sober. And I think it's great that you're living life so intentionally. Hey there, it's Suzanne Oshima, life coach for women in midlife, and your fellow sister on a mission to empower and inspire you through the twists and turns of midlife. I'm here to help you transform it into your best life with the Life is Now, Do It While You Can podcast. We only get one life, so let's make it count, and I'm super excited to dive into this new journey together. Welcome, everybody, to the Life is Now, Do It While You Can show. I'm Suzanne Oshima, and a life coach for women after 50. And today we have a very special guest, Maria Leonard Olson, and she's an attorney, podcaster, TEDx speaker, and author of 50 After 50, Reframing the Next Chapter of Your Life. And I'm so excited to have her here today because today we're talking about living your bucket list. So welcome, Maria. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much.
So let's first start off with what prompted you to write this book, 50 After 50?
Well, I didn't intend to write a book, but in my 50th year, I got divorced, sober, became an empty nester, and I was living alone for the first time in my life. So on my 50th birthday, I basically wanted to hide, but a friend suggested I try 50 new things to determine how I wanted to live the next chapter of my life because I was feeling untethered. I had to start over as a sober woman. And so I did. I tried 50 new things, and people kept asking me for my list. So I discovered that I'd hit a nerve and thought it might make a good book. And so I got an agent and a publishing contract, and I turned it into a book. And it has been an Amazon bestseller, and people approach me in tears saying how much it helped them. So it was such a gratifying experience.
Oh my God. And all these women coming up to you and saying that must have helped you also heal in the process too, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I actually summarized the book in a TEDx talk called Turning Life's Challenges into a Force for Good. And I said that all these challenges that we have that we may not wish to have had, they all can present vistas for growth and opportunities to help other people who are going through similar things.
Yeah, that is so true. That is very, very true. So, when you started to do some of these 50 things, can you share with us what some of these exciting things were? Like, tell me your top five favorite things that you did.
Well, the most dramatic thing I did was that I sold many of my belongings, put the rest in storage, and moved to the poorest region of Nepal to volunteer in a school. And I lived with a family where I had no running water, no plumbing, no electricity. And what it became for me was an exercise in cultivating gratitude because I felt like I had lost so much, but I could see through the eyes of the people there that I had everything that was important and more. By virtue of living in the United States, I have access to clean water and healthcare and shelter if I lose everything. And that's not the case in a lot of developing nations. So it just reset my whole life. And then attached to that is I started practicing my own brand of minimalism. So I realized I had too many things and I didn't need them. And they only added to things to do, to clean, to keep track of. So I do have this practice where for every one thing I bring into my home, I get rid of two by selling them, giving them away, or recycling them because we don't need so many things. And when my parents died, it was a great task to get rid of all their things. And I don't want to burden my children, if I die before they do, which is likely, with having to get rid of my things. So
Right.
I take great pleasure in giving things away to people who can use them.
Yeah, that's so true. You know where I practice minimalism for
Yeah.
myself is I when I lived in New York for 22 years, I don't know if you know, I know you live on the East Coast, but New York, the apartments are so small, so you can't fit anything. So I was forced to practice minimalism, and whenever people would try and give me stuff, I'm like, no, no, I don't want it. And the great thing was though is I didn't collect a bunch of junk. And then when I moved back to California, I didn't have a ton of stuff to pack. And
Yeah.
I like not having a lot of stuff. And you're right. We don't need a lot of stuff, right?
I agree. So I kind of Marie Kondoed my house, and I only have things that really mean something to me or
Yeah.
really serve a vital purpose. So you asked for five things. Those are two. I would say another thing that I really loved was, well, I got my motorcycle license and I learned how to ride a motorcycle. And the motorcycle I had a sidecar for my dog, and it was so much fun to ride in. I felt like I was in a parade every time I rode around with my dog. Another thing was, I was afraid of horses for a long time, but I took riding lessons, and now I go on horseback riding frequently when I travel to other countries. And you just get to see so much more on this 6 foot high perch and feel at one with nature. And also, horses are so intuitive that it helped me learn how to deal with fear. Where I believe that courage is not the absence of fear, but courage is feeling fear and doing it anyway, moving through it, and thereby expanding my comfort zone. I guess another thing that really,
Before you go
uh-huh.
on, well, first of all, I love that you learned how to ride a motorcycle because you and I have stuff in common because I learned how to ride a motorcycle when I was 18. My boyfriend at the time rode motorcycles and he taught me how to ride. So I have this love for motorcycles. So I think it's great you learned later in life and you took your dog along with you. But the second thing about the horse thing, and I love horses, I have loved horses since I was little. So I know how you can have that fear of them, but you're right. They are so intuitive. They pick up on people's energy and they know if you're afraid or you have bad energy. But my question for you is because I'm noticing these are like big bucket list things, like moving to Nepal, the motorcycle, the horse thing. My question is, things on a bucket list, do you think that, or did you choose to have things that kind of scared you?
Not all of the things, no. I
Okay.
mean, some of the things on my bucket list, which is essentially what 50 After 50 is about, involved lifestyle changes, for instance. Like, my fifth thing that was so impactful, I would say, is incorporating a meditation practice into my daily life. And for me, I hesitated to do it because I thought meditation was so time consuming. But there are many forms of meditation, and meditation for me includes taking a deep cleansing breath, get myself centered before I have a difficult conversation or go into court, or basically anything that I want to be mindful while I'm doing. Is I practice box breathing, which is breathing into a count of four, holding it, breathing to a count of four, out to a count of four, holding it out to a count of four. And that just totally resets my system and helps me be fully present. Because when you are focused on your breath, you cannot simultaneously be worrying about the future or fretting about the past. It's impossible. You're fully present. And I want to be fully present for the rest of my life.
Now, so you're saying you weren't this way in your 40s?
No, no. I was on the treadmill of life trying to impress other people. I was a chronic people pleaser, and it really filled me with anxiety. And was not a great way to live and wasn't ultimately sustainable. So, yeah, I changed almost everything about my life. When you get sober, you're called upon in 12-step programs to really change everything about your life.
Now, was that 5? I lost
Yeah,
track.
yeah,
Or
that's
okay. Okay. So now the 50 after 50, how long did that take you to achieve
well,
and do all of that?
the full year. I mean, I kept a dynamic list on my phone of things I wanted to try, things I had the bandwidth to try, the resources, and I would add to it and take away from it. And I did the same thing when I turned 60. I'm 62 now, and I've written a book called 60 After 60 that won't be published right away because I have another book coming out that I have to focus on. And so, yeah, I love this notion. It really propels me to check things off of my bucket list if I have goals set for myself. So I'm constantly taking in ideas of what I might like to try in my life. And I realize that at age 62, I have lived more of my life than I have ahead of me. So I'm very intentional about how I spend my time.
Yeah. Well, that is why my podcast is called Life is Now, Do It While You Can.
Yeah.
Because it is so important that we take advantage of this time and we make the most of it. I mean, I had my own wake up call because I was diagnosed with cancer, and that's what woke me up. But you did it when you turned 50 after you became sober. And I think it's great that you're living life so intentionally. And my question for you is, because I noticed some of the things that you did when I was watching your video. I was like, oh my God, she's so brave. She's doing all these amazing things. One of the things that I love that you did that I actually would love to do is when you did the Arctic plunge. I was
Oh
like,
my gosh, yes. Yes, it was kind of scary, but
well, that's
and
why they
then
have the rope around you to make
yes,
sure that if anything happens, right?
yeah, and I am unlikely to ever do that again. It was not pleasant. It felt like hundreds of needles being poked into my body, and no, I won't do it again, but I'm really glad I did do it. I'll probably never be in Antarctica again. So
Yeah.
I wanted to try it, and I'm seeking to somehow make it to every country in the world. I'm at 72 countries and counting. So
That's amazing. So my question for you is, do you do all of these things in the travel by yourself, or do you have a girlfriend or friends that you do all of this stuff with?
yeah, sometimes I do it by myself, sometimes with my partner, sometimes with a friend. But I did 6-month-long trips with a remote working group. The first one was with Remote Year, and then I recently spent a month in Sri Lanka with the Nomad Collective. And what these groups do, if you're able to work remotely or if you're retired, and or if you're not working, you can go with these groups, and what they do is they find you a vetted apartment, a co-working space with good Wi-Fi. You have an instant community of people to do things with, and you have a local manager who can help you with anything you need. And so I found this during at the end of the pandemic, and I just loved this mode of travel, and I've made some lifelong friends through these groups because they tend to attract people who want to be more than tourists. They want to really experience the local life. And having a month in a place is a better way for me to get to know really what the culture is like.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I don't know about you, but I would love to know if you find this to be true for yourself and how you handle it. So, what I have found is because I'm not as adventurous as you. I would like to be. I feel like I'm in the middle. But my question is that I find when I try to rally my friends to go and do these fun things with, I feel like they're kind of stuck in their routines and they're not as excited to step outside their comfort zones. And so I find that I'm doing a lot of stuff alone, which I don't mind, although I would prefer to do a lot with friends. So, how do you handle that when you're trying to rally your friends? They're not as excited, and are you just kind of like, I'm gonna go.
Yes, because I am an extrovert and I love meeting new people. And so I went on these 6 month long trips with people I didn't know, and I made lifelong friends. And likewise, I did a trip earlier this year to Cuba with a group of a dozen women I had never met before. And it was really fun. And so I have gotten away with needing someone I know to go with me. I mean, yeah, it's fun sometimes. Like for my 60th birthday, two of my dearest friends went with me to Bora Bora to celebrate my 60th birthday, and that was really wonderful. So, yeah, I mean, I know that I can control no one but myself. And so everyone has their own bandwidth, and I don't try to change that. I do know my more adventurous friends, so I do reach out for them with to them if I'm going somewhere off the beaten track that's not like Western Europe or the Caribbean. And my partner, actually, he doesn't really like going to developing nations, so I always invite him, but seldom does he come with me to a developing nation, and that's okay because I'm okay with myself. I finally like my own company after all these years.
Well, also, I think that's great that you found a partner where he is like, I don't want to go, but he doesn't give you a hard time for going.
No.
He knows this is who you are, what you need to do, and so you have the freedom to do that because
Yeah.
not every partner would be supportive that you're always traveling and doing all these things. So, what if a woman because you're an extrovert, right?
Yeah.
But what if a woman is more of an introvert and she's like, "Oh, that's great for Maria, but I'm an introvert and I can't travel alone." What would you say to her?
I would say there are so many women's groups now and small group travel companies that maybe you should try to get a friend to go with you and join one of these smaller groups, because then it's less intimidating if the group is smaller. You get to forge relationships more easily, perhaps, for someone who's not outgoing in that way. So, yeah, that's what I would do. And I would also remind you to honor yourself and your own needs. And so you don't have to do every activity. I learned later in life that no is a complete sentence, although I can't normally use it. But what I do say is, oh, I have another commitment, and I'm under no obligation to tell someone what that commitment is. And the commitment may be to just replenishing my energy reserves and just putting my feet up and reading a book or relaxing. So just honor your own boundaries, stay within your healthy boundaries, and you don't owe other people an explanation for that.
Yeah, that's a great point because I think for a lot of us when we were younger, we always wanted to people please, and like me, I always said yes to everything and anything, even though I didn't want to do it. And I was like, oh God, why did I say yes to that? But it's important as we've gotten older that we honor ourselves, right?
Yes.
Um, so for other women that you have said to you, "Oh my God, you've changed my life. I read your book." Tell us a couple of the things that they've told you that they did that you were just like, "Wow, that's so impressive. I can't believe my book inspired you to do that." Is there anything that comes
Other
to mind?
people. Yeah, I would say people often express that they got out of their own comfort zone, or that they were afraid they had a drinking problem and actually sought help. Um, or that they stopped caring so much about what other people thought. I would say, in general terms, that's the kind of feedback that I get. And people who have made their own lists, and sometimes, many times, it overlaps with some of the things I did, or my appendices in the back of my book of my friends' lists, or ideas that I had that other people could try. So, yeah, I would say it's mostly about drinking fully from the cup of life. If there are things that you think you want to try, just go out and do them. And I just love when I hear somebody actually doing that. And what it just differs for all of us what that thing is. And often people come back to me and say they were afraid to travel alone or afraid to go to a non-westernized country, and that they did it and it was an amazing experience. So yeah, I in general terms, that's the feedback I get.
Yeah, I think that what I heard from what you just shared is that it's not just one thing specifically that you've heard from women, it's the bigger picture of honestly, you're changing women in midlife's lives because you're giving them the courage to fully live their life because you were a great role model for them, right? And I think
Right.
that's so impressive. And I love that you put this in a book because look at what it's doing. It's a ripple effect, right? Because then their friends will see what they're doing and they're going to go, "Oh my god, I'm so impressed with Sally or whoever." And then that encourages their friends to do that too. So that's amazing. So why
Yeah.
would you say it's so important for women in midlife to take themselves outside their comfort zones? Because I have seen where some women have the courage to do that, take themselves outside their comfort zone and grow and change. But I've also seen where some women in midlife can contract and not want to take themselves out of their comfort zone. They like their routine and they're good just the way they are. So what would you say to the women that are afraid to take themselves outside their comfort zone?
I would say your life is happening right now, and it is up to you what you do with it. But often it takes losing someone or a health scare for us to realize that really our time is limited here. So
That
all of
really is.
us should be drinking fully from the cup of life. And I lost my mother this summer, and I know she wanted me to continue to go for it and to continue to do the things that increase my perspective and give me joy. And I will honor her memory by continuing to do that and to continue to work on myself and becoming my best version. So, yeah, I would say you always think you have more time than you have before you can't because you have a health issue or you have to take care of somebody, an aging parent perhaps. So, if you have this window of opportunity, seize it, seize the day, because none of us know again how much time we have left.
Oh my gosh, that is such an important message. I say that all the time because, like you said, it's we don't know, and then we're faced with the health crisis, and then it's like, oh God, now I really need to live my life. But now that you're 62, and thank you for sharing your real age. I'm 60, but what do you see in the next 10 years? Like, what are some big bucket list items that you really want to do? You don't have to tell me everything, but if you
Yeah.
would like to share a couple of things to inspire me and the other women in my audience, I would love that.
Yeah, I would love to go skydiving. I'm really afraid of heights, but I'm going to do it. I would like to get my certification as a diver. I've done many dives, but only to 30 feet as a non certified diver. So I want to do that. It's like another world beneath the sea that is so amazing. So that's definitely on my list. I I know I want to keep making changes to my life that for instance, I have two adult children, and I know that I have a tendency to I wouldn't say it's full codependence, but I maybe care too much about every aspect of their life. And I would like to be able to just cut the strings and just cheer them on without being worried. And it's getting better, but that's something that I'm continuing to work on. In fact, I got a tattoo last year on my wrist that says, "Love is proved in the letting go," because it is. And I trust them, and I know that they are competent, caring, capable adults that I just need to let go. I mean, I keep picturing them as small children because that was one of the most glorious times of my life, but I need to let go. I know that. So I'll continue to work on that. Um, I want to get to at least 100 countries in this lifetime. So I'm pushing hard and traveling often. Um, what else? I do have a second TEDx talk coming up on October 25th on the unexpected consequences of DNA tests, because I found out at age 53 that the father who raised me is not my biological father, which rocked my world. And so I want to warn people about these tests and what they can mean, even from a legal standpoint. So I want to continue to work on spreading the word about this. The laws haven't caught up to the ramifications of these tests. I would actually like to make a sitcom about a certain aspect of my life. Like when I found out that I was the product of one night stand my mom had. My mom's from the Philippines, and that's the most Catholic country on the planet. I was raised Catholic. It was a big part of my life. I found out that genetically speaking, I am half Ashkenazi Jew. There are no Filipino Jews. It's very rare. And so I call myself a Julapina, and I think it would make a hilarious sitcom, the life of a Julapina, because the two cultures are so different. So I don't know, I might do that. And my shout out to my son. He's famous. I don't know if you know this, but my son has 20 million followers on social media. He was People Magazine's sexiest TikToker alive. He was in the new Mean Girls movie. He's a singer too. He opened on a multi-city concert tour for Meghan Trainor. He's very talented. So I may ask him to ask his manager or his agent if they could float my sitcom idea.
Wow, Maria, based on what you shared with me here today, I'm going to bet that we're going to see a sitcom in the next couple of years, because I don't think there's an if. I think you're going to do it, because I would put money on it. I really would.
Thanks.
Well, this has been amazing. So, Maria, how can people find you and your book?
Yeah, go to my website, marialeonardolson.com, and you'll find links to everything, including my book, my podcast, my TEDx talks, my events, the articles that I write. And you can get to everything from there.
If this episode inspired you to start living your bucket list, I want you to know you don't have to do it alone. That's why I created the Circle of Love Sisterhood. It's a community of amazing women in midlife who are cheering each other on, taking their dreams off the back burner, and finally saying yes to the life they've always wanted. You can join the waitlist at SuzanneOshima.com/waitlist and be the first to know when the doors open again this fall. And I can't wait to welcome you in.